Good morning, this is Joji. Today is Sunday, April 22nd, and as I was getting ready to record this journal, I realized it's my journal number 10, which is really great. When I first recorded my journal, I didn't know if I was going to be happy recording and how often I would like to do it, but I find that this is really something that I look forward to every week. So I'm very happy that we are into our 10th journal, and I hope you guys are enjoying it as much as I am. This is a knitting journal. I am a knitwear designer, and I live in Buenos Aires in Argentina. So this week it's still very warm. The city where I live at is very warm. It's not a tropical city. We do get a winter, but it never gets cold enough that it snows. So we never have any snow in the winter. Actually, our winters are pretty mild, and they have become even milder during the past decades. So yeah, it's supposed to be the fall and it's supposed to be getting colder, but that's not happening yet, and therefore I'm still very hot up here recording. Okay, so I wanted to start this journal mentioning the pattern you probably saw in the introduction, which is my latest pattern on Ravelry. It's called the Sparkle Cardigan. And I'm so sad. I was getting everything ready today to record, and I kept looking for that cardigan. I went through all my drawers and all my shelves, and I couldn't find it until I remembered I left it at our summer house. So I cannot show it to you here in the journal, but I wanted to talk about it. This cardigan was a long time in the making. I used some Sweet Georgia yarn called Cash Lux Spark, which is a luxury yarn that has some stellina, and therefore perhaps it's not so noticeable in the photos, but it has this very subtle sheen which makes the cardigan super elegant. And as soon as I got the yarn from Felicia from Sweet Georgia, I knew I wanted to make something that I could wear perhaps for going out, or to wear over a dress or a nicer top. So I wanted to make something basic and simple, but also that had some kind of like flair or feminine touch, and not just the sparkle. So I added some small eyelet or like small texture pattern to the design. And I think it worked out really well because it's a very basic design, but has this little something that makes it super delicate and nice to wear. So the pattern is built from the top down. You start at the shoulders and you start making progress towards the back and then the front. And it's seamless. When you get to the armhole, you join everything together. And then you work the whole body in one piece. And then you have to pick up stitches around the armhole and work a short row sleeve cap, and then the sleeves. Today, I'm sorry about the noise, today is Sunday. I am a bit late recording. It's 12 p.m. so that means that my husband's getting our lunch ready, and you will hear all sort of kitchen noises, but that's all right. I hope they don't shout or anything strange. Okay, have my notes here. What else? So yeah, that's the Sparkle Cardigan, and you can find it on Ravelry now, and I hope you guys like it. And okay, other news regarding work is that we have a knit along going for my Fading Point wrap that I showed you last week. And the knit along is going on in my Ravelry group, and so some knitters have already finished their projects, and you can head over there to see all the finished wraps. which are seriously, they are very nice, all of them. I haven't found yet a combination that didn't work. So yeah, the knit along is going there. There's a very amazing price. If you complete the wrap and you post it there in my group, you are eligible to win a 5-skein fade set from Snail Yarn. Okay, so that's work, and that's done. Next, I wanted to talk to you about my knitting this week. It's been a sort of a strange week. I've been very preoccupied with bank problems and paperwork that I had to do, and nothing that I can't solve, but I've been like going to the bank and learning how to do stuff, and so that kept me that kept a lot of my attention, and I couldn't work on any new designs that I was planning to start this week. I had to cut because my house is a bit too noisy today. But anyway, I was saying that I wanted to start some new designs and I couldn't, but I managed to swatch for one of them. So yesterday I made a poll on Instagram. You know how on Instagram stories you can make a poll, and I showed everyone these 2 skeins of yarn. So this is Madelinetosh, their Farm Twist. It's one of those faces that they bring to the website periodically. I don't know if they have it right now in their web shop, but it's a regular. They bring it every now and then. And this is 100% merino wool, and it's a DK weight. And this colorway is called Pavement. And the other skein that I showed is this skein of Kenobi in the DK twist. This is another yarn that they bring to their web shop every now and then. So I love Kenobi because it has this green undertone, and then on top it's dyed gray but with like a purple tint, which makes it super complex looking. And of course I love excuse me, I love this shade of Pavement, and I love that this yarn looks so twisted. It's like 2 thicker plies twisted together, sort of like if you would ply 2 strands of Tosh Merino light together almost, which is really good. And I asked people what they thought would be nicer for my next project, Kenobi or Pavement, and it was very tight, but yesterday Kenobi Pavement won, and therefore I swatched with this yarn. So I wound up one ball and I made this little swatch that I have to block, and this is my jam. This is what I like to do. This is what I like to knit and make, and what gives me the most joy. Bobbles and traveling stitches and twisted stitches and cables, and it's just my favorite thing to knit ever. I'm a cable girl. So my plan is to make sort of like a jacket style cardigan. I want something quite square at the shoulders. I'm a fan of a drop shoulder line, and also lately it feels like everything that you see at the stores is a drop shoulder, which is very convenient for me because that's the way that I like to design the most, and actually is the easiest to design too, because you don't have to deal with armhole shaping or with raglan increases or circular yoke. So that's why I'm a big fan of a drop shoulder, which is, a drop shoulder is basically, you can have either a straight line on the shoulder or a slanted line, like a shoulder slope, but then the most important thing is that you don't have any shaping at the top of the sleeve. You just pick up stitches and you work the sleeve straight without any sleeve gaps, which also allows you to play with a lot of stitch patterns for the sleeve. So I am hopeful that today I can measure this properly after I block it, and then I can make some calculations to start the back for a jacket. And I'm also thinking that I would like to do like a colored, how do you say, like a colored neckband, like a shawl collar, sort of like a grandpa cardigan, but with more delicate and feminine stitch patterns. And that's my plan. My only concern is that I only have 6 skeins, and I know cable designs require a lot of yarn, but I was thinking of making this design a bit more cropped than like a jacket length, not so much of a coat anyway. So perhaps that will be enough. Otherwise, I'm going to either have to make shorter sleeves, which also would be fine with a jacket type of sweater, or try to get some more of this yarn, which you all know by now that it's quite hard for me to get yarn here in Argentina. But anyway, this is my future project. I already call it a work in progress because I have swatched. That means that it's irreversible. This is already on my needles and it will happen. I don't swatch just because. So this is what's going to jump next on my needles. And of course the other project that I've been showing you for weeks now is my purple wrap, which I finished the lace off, and I am working already into my second half, and I'm going to finish this while I travel next week. I have also made some progress on that olivey green cardigan that I showed you a few journals ago, but that project my mom is helping me with. She wants me to leave her something to work on while I'm away teaching, so I cannot show you that either. What else? So those are my works in progress at the moment. I have many planned projects and many deadline projects and many secret projects that I won't be able to show you during the next weeks, which makes me super sad. I already talked about this in previous journals, how I really enjoy my projects more when I can show you my progress and I can document them and take photos. And every time I have to work for a publication, they don't really allow designers to show what they're doing. So I think during the next few journals there's going to be very little knitting content because I have to work on a project for Pom Pom, and I still have 3 interpretations designs that I have to work on, and 2 more publications. So, but I will always try to have something to show you here in the journal so that we can have fun. But that's going to be happening in the future. Anyway, I have 2 finished projects that I managed to finish this week, even though my bank took most of my attention. The first one is my brother's socks. And I finished this yesterday night, therefore they are not blocked. My brother's feet are size 31 European, 41 European, so he hasn't got big feet. And where's my leftovers? I didn't have a lot of yarn left over from each ball, so I used 2 balls of Knit Picks Felici. I don't know the colorway, could be Mosaic, but I don't know if that's something that every ball of Felici says. My ball said Knit Picks Felici Mosaic, so it could be the colorway or just the brand. And yeah, this is how much I had left over from each of the 50-gram balls that I used. So I don't think it's enough to make a very, very big pair of socks anyway. But it was definitely enough for my brother. And these took me longer than I'm used to, because I think I was not so much in love with the colors. I'm not such a colorful person, I think. So I didn't felt compelled to pick these up, but I know my brother will enjoy them very much because he loves wearing colorful socks, and I hope he likes these. These are for his birthday in June, so I'm happy that these were done with plenty of time to make sure that they are ready for his birthday. I normally make my socks using using circular needles. Here they are, and I use magic loop. And for these ones, I use Chai-Gu needles. And these are one of my two favorite sock needles. The one thing that I don't like so much about them is that they are super, super sharp. And perhaps I should buy a different model, but these are, I poke my fingers with them all the time because of my knitting style, and honestly I would prefer them to be a bit more blunt, but the cable is my favorite for sure. I love the tip of my Hi-Hias more than my Chai-Gus, and I love the cable of my Chai-Gus more than my Hi-Hias. Having said this, I think I would knit with anything. I really am not a needle snob. I never feel the need to find better needles or to try different things. Every sock needle that I own has been purchased because I found myself in a different country or in a different place, and probably I finished my work in progress and I didn't have anything else to work on, so I usually buy a set of needles and a skein of sock yarn, and I keep myself occupied with that. My preferred needle size is 2.25 millimeters, and I have no idea what that is in US size, but you probably know. And for my brother, I cast on 64 stitches for the cuff, and I did a 2x2 rib, and then stockinette stitch, slip stitch, heel flap, short row, heel turn, and then a gusset and a regular toe. Yeah, that's my favorite way to build a sock. I find that they are the best fitting and most durable socks with that method. And then, remember last week I showed you a skein of yarn that I was going to start working with, and it was a skein of Madelinetosh Work Sock, and I had discussed how I felt that it was not sock yarn or sport yarn, that it was heavier, and I can now say that it definitely feels almost like a DK weight. So this is the yarn I showed you last week. It was in a skein, and the colorway is called Patched Indigo, and I made a pair of socks. So let's see, these are heavier than regular sock weight socks, but I love them. They are really truly amazing. The yarn, I cannot say how much I adore this yarn. It's plump and it feels solid in your hands, and sometimes when I'm knitting socks I feel that the yarn is so thin and I have to pull it tight to keep my tension, and this yarn for socks, oh my goodness, it's the best. I know these are thicker, they are probably not for everyone, but they flew off my needles. These socks were made using 48 stitches instead of 64 that I used for my brother, and I added these beautiful leaf pattern and small cables on each side, and they literally knit themselves. It was incredible to see how fast I made these compared to the striped ones. I think I was also very much in love with the color. So yeah, these go pretty much with everything that I like to wear. So whenever I'm wearing this barefoot, I really like to see this color. And yeah, it was really easy to make them match because the lace pattern, I just counted how many repeats I wanted, and yeah, that was very easy. So I was watching a new series, Tabula Rasa, that popped up in our Netflix here in Argentina. I think it's either from Belgium or the Netherlands, and it was a psychological thriller, very scary for me. And yes, every time I see these socks now, I remember that series, which was really, really good. So I recommend that. I also wanted to weigh, I have my scale here. I wanted to weigh how much yarn I had left over, 85 grams. So the initial scale was 200 grams, and these socks took 115 grams of decay weight. So one skein is not enough to make 2 pairs of heavy socks, but definitely if you make these shorter, like this, you can definitely make 2 pairs of heavyweight socks with just 1 skein of that yarn. Again, it's a very heavy skein. The put up is amazing. It's like 400 yards of light decay weight. It's incredible. So yeah, very happy with my purchase and with my new socks. This is going to be a new pattern. I'm writing it today, and then I need to test it, and it should be up as soon as we are done writing and testing that. So those are my finished objects for knitting, and I think that might be all for knitting. Let me see. Yes. So this week has been super exciting for sewing, and thank you everyone for being so excited with me, with my sewing. I'm having a ball. I'm having the best time learning how to sew and learning how to do all kinds of things. I feel exactly the same as when I was learning to knit. I often tell the story of how Argentine women knit and how Argentine people, we don't have a lot of resources and we have to make do with whatever we have. We cannot go to the yarn store and get the exact same yarn that the designer used. So we learned really early how to substitute our materials, how to work our gauge, and how to make our numbers work, to make all the modifications to make that pattern or that project that we want to make. And I feel with sewing exactly the same. I feel like I have no idea what materials I'm buying or where to get this stuff or that stuff. And whenever I go to the fabric store, the people who are selling stuff to us, they don't even know what they are selling to us. They don't know what the materials are made of or where they come from. They don't really care because no one has ever asked them those questions. And I kind of missed the fact that I kind of missed being a beginner at something and to have everything ahead of you, right? So right now I have so much to learn ahead of me, and I feel like I'm having fun discovering each of these things in my own way, without a lot of method, without having classes about sewing. And that's how I learned to knit, and I really, really feel that sewing has brought that back to my life, and I'm enjoying sharing that with you. I have created a different Instagram account for my sewing, which is at Joji Sews, and my plan is to share a bit more of my sewing journey in that account. so that my knitting, my main account keeps more relevant with family and knitting and my usual content, but then in my sewing account I can document, like take finished photos of just my sewing, and therefore it feels sort of like a sewing notebook. I haven't found a place that's as good as Ravelry for sewing. I opened an account in Textilia, but I don't find it as user-friendly as Ravelry is. Like uploading my photos takes time, and then I cannot move them around, and I have to say I'm very spoiled by Ravelry. I love it too much to try a new interface that's not the same. So it made sense to open a new Instagram account and then document there, have all my sewing projects documented there, so I can reference back to that. And so if you want to follow me there, again, it's at Joji Sews, and most of my sewing now is going to be in that account. So I only made 2 projects this week, but it's a lot. I made 2 projects this week. So my first project that I made was Willow Tank. It's a pattern by Grainline Studio, and I used the same fabric that I used for my pajama pants that I showed you last week, just because I had to buy that fabric by bulk, so I have a lot of that fabric here at home, and I feel like almost I can make muslins out of every pattern that I want to make. So on Monday I went fabric shopping with my friend Ale, and I wanted to get supplies to make a backpack for my son. I had told you that I wanted to explore waxing my own canvas. So I went to the fabric district to get some canvas, and of course we ended up buying more things than we were planning, and I bought this beautiful yellow patterned fabric, which is unusual for me. I don't have it here to show you, but it's mustardy yellow, and it has some beautiful flower pattern, and I wanted to make a tank top to bring to my trip next week, and I didn't know what pattern to make, and I didn't want to use my good fabric into a pattern that I didn't know. So I decided to give this pattern a try, and I used my light blue fabric. I really like the way it turned out. I have posted a photo of me wearing this in my sewing Instagram account, and yeah, I'm pretty pleased, but I don't think that this is the right pattern for that fabric that I purchased. So the first thing that happened is that for some reason this fabric pulls really tight on all my stitches, and it didn't happen with any other of the fabrics that I sewed. So I think that some of the threads get caught by my needle, and as I'm sewing, I don't push the fabric into my sewing machine. I let my sewing machine feed from it, but sometimes I feel like boom, I feel like a noise, and then one of these threads pulls, and I get these wrinkled lines and then I have to stretch it back. The fabric is not playing nice with me. I don't want to blame all my mistakes on my materials, but I couldn't find a way to adjust the tension so that it wouldn't happen to me, and it's very random. So anyway, that's one of the things that happened to me, and the other is that even though I was super careful not to make these seam tight, these are bias bindings. Even though I was super careful and I even basted the bias tape into position, I feel like it came out really tight, so probably next time I would cut the bias a bit longer than the pattern calls for, because I don't know if I'm just applying it a bit too tight or if it's a mistake that I make when sewing. I steamed it and it definitely got better, but I still feel like next time that I make a top, perhaps I would prefer to have like a proper facing, like I did with some of my other projects, than just the binding. So I'm going to try to look for that fabric particularly, I'm going to try to look for a pattern that has facing, or I'm going to try to attempt to like do my own, to draft my own facings using the, yeah. Anyway, another thing is that I feel like the dart might have been a bit too big for my bust size, and I know that there's a tutorial that tells you how to get rid of that, and I don't think that I would need a tutorial. Like I feel pretty confident just removing the excess fabric and not just ignoring the dart, but I feel that perhaps I could just make the dart a bit shorter and not have it come all the way to here. And I think that's perhaps what's bothering me. It's that when I wear the top, the darts come too much towards the front. So I like the sizing, but I have narrow frame, and therefore I feel like maybe I need to modify the darts to fit me better. Yeah, so that's my Willow tank top. Also, I had initially cut the fabric longer than the pattern calls for, so I had cut it a bit like 2 inches longer, because as I was browsing projects made out of this pattern, I felt like some of them were a bit too short, so I decided to add 2 inches. And then when I tried it on with that extra length, I understood that the pattern needs to be, the finished object needs to be cropped like that in order to fit properly. So I cut it and redid the hem, and now I'm much happier with that top. So I love the Willow tank top. I definitely recommend the pattern, but in my case I feel like it's more suited for some casual looking fabrics, and I was looking for a pattern a bit more a bit longer and a bit more elegant here at the top, because I want it to be like a blouse that I can tuck in my trousers. So I have to keep looking. And the other project that I made was I made this tote bag purse for my sister, who I'm going to meet in Europe. She lives in the Netherlands, and I'm going to meet her in Europe in May. There you go. Which I'm super proud of. So I'm going to tell you all about this, because I know you were very interested in how I made this. So last week when I recorded, I told you that I had been thinking of making projects with wax canvas, and I couldn't find any shops that carried wax canvas here in Argentina. One option was to buy wax canvas in the US, because I'm going there next week, and then bring it home. But then I thought, what if I really like it? What if I really like sewing with wax canvas and I want to keep using it for more projects, and I have to wait again? Same problem that I have with yarn. I don't want to have it with fabrics. I really want to have a hobby that I can get all my materials for here in Argentina. So I watched I did a search on Google, and I wanted to know whether one could actually wax a canvas by hand. And turns out that you can. I didn't know that, and it was very easy, very, very easy. And first I thought, okay, it's going to be very messy, but then I thought, okay, I really, really want to try it out. So let's start by the beginning. I had at home in my stash this fabric that you see in the lining of the bag. It's cotton twill in this eggplant colorway that I found at the local shops, and I loved, and I brought it home. My plan was to make a skirt out of it, but then I thought, okay, this is perfect to try. My final goal with wax canvas is to make a backpack for my son for his birthday in June. And he requested it in black, and we wanted to look super cool and very hipster. And so I bought that black canvas, and I didn't want to wax that fabric, the good fabric for Sebi. I wanted to wax something else to practice with. So I took out this cotton twill, and I'm going to add some videos that Charlie made while I was doing that. But also I bought beeswax at the candle making shop. This was really cheap. Let's see. I bought 1 pound of beeswax, and that cost me about $6, 1 pound of this wax. And then I also bought 1 pound of paraffin. It looks like this, and this costs much less. This probably costs about $2. Then, sorry about all the noise. Then I also bought, I'm gonna show you all my supplies. I bought this cheap tin pan, very cheap, and I bought a brush. And then I melted a mix of half beeswax and half paraffin in bain-marie, or you know how you take a pot with water and put this inside. And I used chopsticks to, and to stir my wax. And when it was completely liquid, I brought the pot onto my table. I made sure that I protected my table very well, because the wax is going to go through your fabric. So I added several layers of old sheets and newspaper. And then at first I cut all my pieces that I was going to use for my tote bag. And then I painted each piece on one side with this mix of wax. Just a thin layer, but I made sure that everything was properly covered. And then once that was done, the fabric became white. It was very evident that it was covered in wax, so you could make sure that you completed all the spots that didn't have wax. Then I let it get colder for maybe about 2 minutes, and I took my iron, and the wax did get into the iron. So I had an older iron that I use for this, but you might ruin your iron or get it dirty while doing this, so I use my older one. And then with the iron in the wool temperature, I ironed all my pieces, and you could see the wax melting and getting into the fabric as you were doing it. It was really, really cool. It was like magic. And then as I was taking my pieces off my ironing board, I felt that they were a bit too flimsy, and I was afraid that they didn't have enough structure after the process. I was wondering whether all the wax had gone through and I had lost all the wax in the process, but that's just because it was hot, and as soon as it got colder, it gets hard and it has that leather texture. So it was super easy. You just have to have supplies and like an older iron, or you have to clean your iron very well after this. And this is the result. As you can see, the fabric is thick, and it has this beautiful texture and structure. There are some places where the fabric looks a bit darker. Probably I applied more wax in those sections, but I like it the way it is. I like that it has this sort of marbled look to it. And I wanted to make Letty, my sister, a tote bag inspired by a tote bag that I had seen online, and I didn't find the pattern. It was not available as a PDF, and I didn't want to wait until I got to the States to get it. So what I did is, based on my construction experience from the bags that I had made last week, is I drafted a basic tote with an oval base, and then I added some pieces for the pockets. These are also lined with the original fabric, and then I added these tabs and these D-rings. The leather that I used is the same leather that I used for the handles that I showed you last week. I had to buy these from a leather producer that cut the straps for me, so I had to buy a lot of them in order for him to sell them to me, but they were really, really cheap. Considering, I think I paid maybe $3 for a strap that was twice this length, so I consider that super affordable. And so this was basically $150, this piece of leather. And then I received some really, really sweet advice on Instagram on how to condition leather. I applied some Timberland boot wax so that it wouldn't look so raw, and I also used a nail polish, like sandpaper, to finish these edges. And my husband also used his screws and, I don't know the name for this, like toppers, to attach my handles like this. So that was very easy. And so it was basically waxing and then sewing this. I still don't know how to sew a zipper, so this doesn't have any closure, but it's alright. I can live with that. I probably would add a snap here if I knew how to do that, but I'm going to tell my sister she can do that if she wants to. And then I added also these handles so that she can actually wear it like this, or she can wear it like this, or she can even use it as a cross body bag. And I added some photos of these with some yarn and coffee, so she can take whatever she wants to have in her purse. And yes, I'm super, super proud of this design. It's all my creation, and she has seen it. She said she really, really likes it. So yes, now that I showed it to you, I'm going to pack it properly and save it for her birthday. I want to make like a tote bag purse style of thing. to practice the waxing. So I drafted some pattern improvised, and I'm going to use this burgundy colored cotton twill, and then Charlie and I are going to try to wax the cut pieces instead of just the whole fabric. I'm using a mix that has half paraffin wax and half beeswax. Now I think I have to iron the wax into the canvas, but I'm not sure what the temperature is. So I'm starting with a wool temperature. Wow. It's working, I think. It's magic. It's magic. Ta-da! I wonder if any of the wax stayed there. So this is my finished wax canvas. At first I was a bit disappointed because no, it's really good. I'm really happy. Alright, so that's my sewing for this week. I'm leaving on Tuesday to the US, so I don't know if I'll be able to do any more sewing. I don't think so. I'm not going to start Sevi's backpack yet. I did buy the range backpack pattern because I saw that it has the zipper for the front pocket, and therefore I'm hoping that the pattern will teach me how to sew a zipper, but if it doesn't, I'm pretty confident that I can just Google and learn how to sew a zipper, so that shouldn't be much of a problem. And yes, so next week I'm not going to be able to record next weekend because I will be teaching at Knit for Fun retreat in Savannah, Georgia. I leave my home on Tuesday evening and I have to fly all night, and I get there on Wednesday morning, and then I'm going to be teaching Thursday, Friday and Saturday and I fly home back on Sunday morning, so I arrive here on Monday morning. So what I think I'll do is I'll try to record after I come back to tell you all about it, and also because that same week, right after I come home from Savannah, on Friday my mom and I are jumping on a plane and traveling to London, where we're going to do some sightseeing, and shortly after that we are going to go to Bath for Curious Handmade Retreat. And so if I don't record during those days that I'm in between trips, I probably won't see you for a long while, and I will really miss chatting with you. I wanted to say that I've been traveling so much lately for my work and for teaching and for meeting you all, and I still have so many commitments until the end of next year that I have to go and attend and teach at, and I have been trying not to do that anymore because I feel that my body is taking a toll on that. I have trouble sleeping, and jet lag is not my friend. I feel like I'm not giving myself the I'm not taking care of myself that well by traveling so much. So that's one of the reasons why I felt that I wanted to start journaling, so that you could know a bit more about me without me having to travel to all these events. And I hope that's okay. I think that I will still want to come to a lot of these knitting events myself, but I want to come as a participant. I want to come as a guest, as a knitter. I want to enjoy the same things you enjoy when you go to these events. For example, I've never been to Edinburgh Yarn Festival, and I would really like to, but I would like to enjoy and not be tied to any schedules, and I would like to have time to meet with everyone without having to run to teach a class or to have a meeting of any kind. So even though I will still travel a lot, you will continue to hear me talk about a lot of trips. One of the main reasons why I'm recording this journal is so that we can connect, even if I can't make it to your town, or if you can't make it to that particular event. So I hope that's okay. I hope this is a good way for us to chat. I love your comments. I love your comments on my videos. I think I have put a heart on all of them, and that means that I read it and I appreciate it, and I agree with everything you say. And please keep them coming. Please keep the comments going. It's what makes me know that this is something good. This is a good way to reach out to you and to stay in touch. That's why I really want to record after I come home from Savannah, so that we don't lose that connection. And I also will be receiving a lot of yarn that I'm being sent or that I order. So I look forward to sharing that haul with all of you. So have a great week, and see you when I come back. Bye!